Hello, hello, hello. We're back with another episode of the Jane Moran podcast, and I have an incredible guest with me today, Krystal Jugarap, and she is here to speak with me all about her experience as a mompreneur. We have not had anyone speak on this. I'm really excited because she's going to share with you exactly why, and also reminding you, if you are a mom, that you do not need to feel limited to that title. So, Krystal, thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, Jane, thank you so much for having me. I always love chatting with you, so I'm super excited to be doing this today.
This is going to be wonderful. Okay, so Krystal and I met many months ago through the Women Thrive Summit, and she had me on her podcast. She's published an article of mine. So now I'm so excited to repay that favor back to you and to talk about this. Okay, Krystal, so you're expecting right now, you just said you're about 5 weeks out. Share with everyone a little about you, share a little bit about your story and how you got into mompreneurship.
Yes, we are 5 weeks out, so I'm glad that I'm still, lasting, that I can be here on this podcast with you today. Despite how uncomfortable I may feel, the energy is still, I'm still here. So glad to be here. But yes, in 2018, I became a first-time mom. So I have two girls already, expecting my first boy. And I've always known that I wanted to be a mom ever since I was a kid. Like I knew like I want kids. And I grew up really close to my family and to my cousins. And I think that's why that really, stuck with me. I kind of like the chaos everywhere. And then ever since high school, I also knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So in 2018, when, the motherhood became a reality, it was like, okay, now I'm trying to find my way back to who I am, right? Because once you're a mom, your whole life changes. Now you are responsible for this tiny little human and you want to pour your everything into them. And of course, that's what I wanted to do. But I also wanted to pour back into me again, right? Into who I was pre-mom. And I grew up in a creative household. I've always been very into DIYs and doing creative things. So part of my journey back to finding who I was again was allowing myself to get back into my creative side. And I thought that that kind of like went hand in hand with motherhood anyway, because I was like, doing little crafty things for birthday parties. And I was like, this is great. Like I'm carving time out for myself where I can feel like I'm doing things that I love again, but I'm still like being the best mom that I feel like I could be. So that was my journey back into, okay, like I am a mom, but I know that I'm more than a mom. And I know that I need something for myself aside from just being a mom. And then a few years later, I had, well, okay, let's take it a little bit back. I used to sell jewelry and I had so much jewelry accumulated from that time. And so a few years later, my daughter's a couple years old. I had jewelry completely overtaking my shelf and I was tired of looking at it. And shelf space was so valuable. I wanted to claim that space back. So I said I needed to do something with my jewelry. And I couldn't find anything online that like worked well for me. So in true DIY fashion, I was like, you know what? Let me just make this one of my DIYs. And I would brainstorm the project in the middle of the night while I was waiting for my baby girl to fall back asleep. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually a really amazing product. And that's how we came up with Book of Bijou, which is our product line. It's a jewelry organizer designed to look like a coffee table book. And we launched in 2021. And from there, I kind of hit the ground running. And that was the moment that it was like, okay, can I really make this motherhood and this entrepreneur life really work together? And it was rough. It was really, really rough in the beginning. And there's been so many learning lessons. And I feel like now that I'm a few years into it, I've grown so much in the way that I give myself grace and I have patience with myself. Communication has gotten a lot better because at first it was kind of like just me trying to tackle everything on my own, whether it's mentally or physically. But now I'm at a point where, my girls know exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. My partner knows that communication has opened up and I feel so much better about it. And so this is why mompreneurship is like such a topic that I'm so passionate about talking about because while it is so hard for mothers to also juggle entrepreneurship, I want to be there to remind everyone that you are still so worthy of pursuing all of your biggest dreams, right? And creating a life you love, despite how difficult it might be. It's not just all about sacrifice and difficulty. There's so many rewarding parts of this motherhood slash entrepreneurship journey as well that I could go on and on about. And I want other moms out there to recognize that there really can be this beautiful balance.
Oh my gosh, you're such an inspiration. What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that and really giving us some deeper dive into your life. And I think to touch on what you said around a lot of moms might be listening and thinking, oh, well, being a mom and being an entrepreneur is just going to be too hard, or it's going to be really hard and I'm going to have to sacrifice. I think something to, remind ourselves is something feeling hard is all about perception. And I think we think something's going to feel hard because we imagine oh my God, I've got this booming business and oh my God, I'm going to have to work so much. I'm going to have to hustle and grind. I'm too old for this, or I don't have energy for this. Like, how am I going to make that work? And we really create that perception in our minds. And, you might have even thought some of that initially, might have held you back initially from doing some projects, or even might hold you back now from doing some projects, but it's really all perception. And I think it's so wonderful about commenting on giving yourself grace and patience, because anyone listening, if you've got a dream, if you want to be an entrepreneur, allow yourself to be an entrepreneur on your own terms.
Mhm.
You're on your own journey. So you mentioned navigating some learnings. I'm sure that, and I've heard this from, okay, all my friends have kids, all right? And as I mentioned to you before, like I'm not planning on having kids, so it's not like a sad thing for me. It's like, okay, cool. My friends are just like, can you please take this for a moment? Like, give me a minute, So all my friends have kids, and I know that especially in going back into the workforce after having kids, just in general, in living their own life outside of, they are a mom, but also themselves, they can sometimes feel burnout and guilt. And I feel, mom guilt, what they say. And I can only imagine carving out time for yourself to start a business or to run a business, that those types of feelings coming in. Did you experience this? And how did you overcome that?
100%, 100%. And I don't think the mom guilt ever truly goes away. I think there's ways that you can continue to deal with it, especially as it keeps coming up, right? And then you, like we were just talking about, you continue to have grace with yourself and it gets a lot easier to have grace with yourself. But what you said about it's all about perspective, that is one of the biggest learning lessons and areas that I've grown because when I launched my business, I was really on this path of this incredible mindset journey in it because I said to myself, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm really going to do it. I'm going to commit to myself. I'm going to start betting on myself. I'm doing this not just for me, but for my family. Of course, it was going to be difficult. Of course, there were going to be times where like things did not go my way, and I was mentally preparing myself for all of that. But there were countless times where the mom guilt and the burnout was so real. And a lot of what helped me move forward is being able to sit and reflect and figure out how to reframe my perspective, right? In the beginning, I was trying to do a million things all at once. Like there was times where I was just bringing my laptop everywhere and trying to be present with the baby while also still getting things done with my business. But obviously, if you're half here, half there, you're not really giving anything your all. And at the end of the day, you just feel like burnt out and exhausted and like overwhelmed with everything that you still have to do. It took me a while, but now I'm at the point where I've recognized that I look at what I do as a form of self-love. I'm doing something that I'm so incredibly passionate about and that I know fills my cup. And as women and as moms, especially, we need those things that fill our cup. And so my business is that for me. And being able to carve out time for my business something that's at first felt so selfish, I recognize that being able to do that allows me to be a better mom, a better human,
Mm-hmm.
more patient, more empathetic, more just energetic and excited about everything that's going on, right? I'm not stuck in the overwhelm of being with a tiny little human for 24 hours of the day and not getting like any other
You need
kind of
your own break,
stimulation.
mental break. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And so that's part of like the reframing of it, right? Even though I'm stepping away from my girls for an hour a day or 2 hours a day, or if I have to go do an event, I know I can come back to them a much better person because my cup has been refilled, my energy has been refueled, my fire is lit again, and I can come back to them with that energy and really be present in the moment with them because I'm no longer thinking about work. I've gotten that done. I've checked that off the box. I've checked that I don't even know how to talk anymore this far into pregnancy, but I've checked that box off.
Off.
And I'm able to actually be fully present with them, right? And a lot of it also is the communication, as I alluded to earlier.
You took the
You know,
words out of my
before,
mouth. That's what I was going to say next to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Before I was kind of just trying to be all over the place and I was dealing with everything on my own and no one really knew what I was doing. And I felt so guilty because my kids would just be like thinking, oh, mommy is just working all the time. She would rather work than be with us. Of course, they didn't ever actually say that, but we put all those
Yes,
terrible negative
definitely.
thoughts into our own heads. And now that I've gotten to a place where I'm like constantly trying to find ways to teach them what I'm doing and why I'm doing that and what my mindset is, right? I'm seeing my mindset kind of trickle down to them. All of my creative ideas are trickling down to them. I am finding ways to incorporate them into what I'm doing. Like I take them to events when I can and expose them to all of these incredible women doing all of these incredible things, which I think is so profound and impactful, not just for me and really solidifying my why, but also for them to recognize, wow, you really can do, like, I can do whatever I want. My mom's not just saying that, like, she's showing me I can do whatever I want in life. And I think that's so incredible. There are so many times where we're always being that cheerleader for other people, saying, girl, go for it, do it. You can do whatever you put your mind to. But at the end of the day, are we doing that for ourselves? Are we being that cheerleader for ourselves? And then even with like a day job, right? You can be working full time and it can be so quick for you to say, no, sorry, babe, I can't play right now. I'm working. But when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to having your own business, for some reason, we feel so guilty for saying that, right? For choosing
Mm-hmm.
our own business over our children. But like, why are you starting your business? For me, I want to replace my day job, right? This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to create. And I want to create it because I want to create something for my family. That financial freedom, that time freedom. I want to show them what's possible. And it goes
Mm-hmm.
back to my why. And whenever, if anything is important to you, you will make time for it and give yourself grace. Whatever your journey looks like, we're all busy, we're all limited on time, but don't discount the power of showing up no matter how small. And that's really how your momentum will start to build. If you just continue to show up little by little every single day, with your business, with the way that you show up with your children and communicate with them, and you're going to continue to feel really good about what you do and be able to build on that momentum. And that is where we are today. I feel like we continue to grow, and even though I've given myself more ease and more grace and work a little bit less, right? We're continuing to build that momentum because I know where I'm putting my energy, why I'm putting my energy there, and it doesn't feel so forced anymore.
Oh my gosh. So much juicy bits in there. I think it sounds to me like you've also, as a household, right? Like as a household, as a collective family, there's a strong understanding as to why, like you have a strong why in your business, but as to why you're doing this and why this is so meaningful to you. And I think that's important. I mean, whether, you're in a relationship where there's another person in the picture that's in the household that's, also taking care of the family, or not, but really if there is someone that they really understand that importance, because then they understand the meaning of it to you, so that when there is time that you legitimately need to carve out, maybe like right now recording this podcast, you know what I mean? And that they understand the importance to you, like has that played a role in like your household, like about them understanding that? And I think incorporating your kids into the things you do, obviously being an amazing role model, but them seeing the joy it brings you as well.
Yes, absolutely. And very recently, actually, it was, well, I guess it was oh my gosh, time flies. I guess it was like the beginning of last year, but it still feels so recently. But there was definitely, the dynamic shifts, especially if you're already in a relationship. And then after the fact, that's when you start your entrepreneurial journey, right? Because you weren't already in that process when you started your relationship. And all of a sudden, the things change, like the way that your day looks like, your mindset, the way that you are, how you're focusing your energy, all of that changes when you make the decision to be a business owner. And like I said, even with my kids, the same with my partner, like I felt like in the beginning, I just was trying to manage everything myself. And I wasn't really talking about what I was doing or why I was doing it because I was in that mindset of like, nobody gets it. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't need to tell anyone about what I'm doing. I'm just going to do it. And then, of course, it got tough because that dynamic was changing. And all of a sudden, like from their perspective, it's like, okay, so you're just like cutting us out. You're like, that's all you care about now, right? When in fact, the opposite is true. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to do this because I want to create something for our family, but that was never actually expressed
Mm.
and reiterated. And that understanding was never there. And I think for so long, I was always in this place of like, I'm just going to do what's expected of me. I was very much a people pleaser. I got good grades in school and I did all my assignments and I got the good job with, I won't go into what my day job is, but got the good job and I found the partner and I did all of this. But now I was in this place where I was like, you know what? I'm going to start living for myself. Again, it was almost kind of like a step up from when I became a first-time mom in 2018. And I was like, I need to find myself again. And I allowed myself to do all those creative things. But now, when I launched my business, I was said, I'm going to create the life that I always envisioned for myself, right? Not just, I'll do what I can after I've done doing whatever else is expected of me, but I want this life for myself. I've always envisioned it for myself. I always knew that I was meant for something bigger. And I am going to lean into that. And I am just going to let myself be who I was destined to be. But I think the mistake in the beginning was not letting anyone around me know who that person was. And
That's
then
powerful.
last year, when I started realizing the effect that that had of me jumping into this journey kind of on my own, right? Without letting anyone into the box. And I realized the kind of tension that was placing on our household. We really had to reflect as a family and have those tough conversations and have those conversations that really broke down all those little nuances of this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's not because I don't care about you or don't want to spend time with you anymore. It's because I want to spend time with you more. It's because this is
Mm-hmm.
something that I'm so passionate about. And I feel like it makes me a better mother and a better human. And I want to create impact in the world. And I want to bring you along with me. And I want to be able to take care of you in the future. And from there, I feel like there's been so much more understanding, more communication. I feel like the person that I am, like who I really am, is actually like seen now and celebrated and supported because now they can jump in and say, okay, do you need help with that? Like, what are you doing? What do you need
Mm-hmm.
help with? So
That's amazing.
it was tough, but I think it's so key to add that element of communication in.
Yeah, that sounds, I mean, look at the impact it's had on you and your life and where you're at right now. It's beautiful. Can you share a little bit on, I can imagine, and as you've kind of said, as you've evolved over the last few years and in, relaunching things in your business, and reconnecting with yourself again, after baby one, baby two, now baby three, what's going to happen? How did you really hone in on owning your voice? Because how does that work? How does that work as a mom? Sounds silly to ask, but you moms tend to be like, well, I'm a mom. And then it's like, okay, but you're also you're Krystal.
Yeah.
So share a little bit on your journey, because obviously with us, how we met is through speaking. And so, we're all about really owning our voice, owning our stories. What does that look like? How does that look for you?
Yeah, so we dove into it a little bit on the family side of things, right? Where I kind of recognized that I was a little bit more divided and I
Mm-hmm.
should have been a lot more open and forthcoming and just honest and transparent. And I think that kind of helped me get to the same point, like with how I show up in my business, right? And early on into my journey, I really had to make the decision of what kind of leader I wanted to be. I guess I didn't have to, but I wanted to, right? I wanted to be very clear with the direction that I was going with when I launched my business. And that included how I wanted to lead the business, how I wanted to show up, what kind of brand I wanted to portray. And I wanted that to be one of honesty and integrity and transparency. Remember, I wanted to really step into this is who I am. I'm going to let the whole world know it. I don't even care anymore. Life is short. I want to create the life that I love, that I'm excited about. And when I'm excited about something, I talk about it. So if I'm excited, if I'm working on something, I'm going to talk about it. I don't believe in
Yeah.
hustling in silence. I believe in sharing with the world what it is that you're doing so they can also get so excited about it and be a part of that journey with you. And when I made that decision to show up, it was actually at a time in my business where I was at like one of the lowest lows. And it was a decision to show up very vulnerably. And in my feelings of like disappointments in the challenges that we were facing at that time where I couldn't fulfill certain orders. And I felt like this is just the worst feeling. Like this is the worst place to be in business. But again, I wanted to show up honestly. And that was a very magical and pivotal moment in my business because I recognized how much showing up in that way, in that authentic way, really starts the foundation for such incredible relationships moving forward. And it opens my eyes to the possibilities when it comes to creating your community and attracting the people that belong on your journey. Um, and so from that point forward, I was like, I'm going to keep on showing up. So anytime I get really excited about something, I have a new idea, I show up on the social media or at my in-person events and I tell people about it. And I feel like I lean a lot on my intuition and I really
Mm.
rely on, the energy that gets reciprocated to me from our community. And I let myself feel that. And because I'm allowing myself to get loud and excited about what I'm doing, I'm able to get that feedback that I need to help me recognize, okay, this feels really good. It feels like I'm going in the right direction. And I think that's how we've been able to build so much momentum and keep on growing. In 2022, we had one or two events. And then in 2023, that went to at least 8 events. And we launched our women-owned small business directory online. And now in 2024, we're also launching this new pop-up program. And all of it has been this really natural progression because I've allowed myself to just speak honestly and own my voice. I feel like I said, I've always been very creative. I think I'm very innovative and I want to lead with that. And I want to build our community with that in store and with that in mind. And it continues to feel really good because it's always been very authentic to me.
And so much stems back to feeling. When the better that we feel, the better we think, the better our actions. So I'm very in tune with my intuition. So I totally align to that. And that you're guided by that is amazing. So I'd love to know as well, one of my last questions for you here is how do you define success? So how do you define success in your life, whether that's as a mom, as a mompreneur, what does that look like for you?
I love that question. And I think I can take it two different ways. So I wish I could remember who the content creator was that I saw post this, but this goes back to like just being able to juggle everything as a mom that has young kids, that still has her full-time job, that's trying to grow these businesses. Of course, it gets overwhelming with your growing to-do list and never really being able to check everything off. But this person posted, as long as I can get one thing done for my home, for my business, and with my children, I feel like that's a good day. And ever since I saw that, I was like, I like that. I'm gonna hold on to that mantra and just use that moving forward. And I think it has relieved so much overwhelm for me, right? Because I never get stuck in a place where I'm like, today I have to clean the house and this is what I'm gonna focus on. And then everything else feels neglected because I've only been focusing on cleaning the house, right? So if I have days where I get one thing done, whether it's putting the laundry away, I get one thing done, whether in my business, whether it's creating my newsletter and just sending that out, and then that's it for the day. And then I spend the rest of my day coloring with the girls. That's a good day because I feel like I've touched everything that's important to me to make sure I feel like I'm keeping all of the flow going in all of these different areas instead of neglecting anything. I've even implemented this like hourly alarm on my phone just to make sure I'm not sitting at my desk for hours on end, which is really unrealistic for us for as moms or as anyone that's juggling multiple things. And then on the larger scale, success for me really comes down to impact. One of our core values as a brand is giving back to community. And I've always known that I wanted to create a position for myself that allows me to do that. And in just a couple of years, we've been able to raise $5,000 or so to pour back into the community. And that's really been the help of showing up and using my voice, right? And allowing our community to amplify that voice.
Mm-hmm.
And even those little things, whether I'm just, reminding one person that you are so worth it, that you can do it. I know it's tough, but be proud of yourself for even just showing up. And if they take that advice and then keep showing up, I consider that success. If I'm able to help out any kind of charity, whether it's $50 or $1,000, I consider that success. I don't, this might sound crazy to all the business owners that are listening, but I don't have like strict monetary or whatever goals listed out for myself because it really comes down to I just want to create a life that I love, that feels really good to me, and that feels like I'm making an impact on other people. So if I'm doing that, then I'm okay with everything else in the world.
Well, you're the only one living your life. So, you've got to figure out what works for you. I feel you though on the monetary goals that they don't really work for me. And I end up getting so caught up in that. I've done extensive mindset work on reframing what success means to me. Because when we do link it to money, well, when we don't see the money, then you feel like a failure. And it's like, you're doing all these great things. You're not a failure. So that's amazing. Okay, so last thing, let's leave our listeners with your top advice or top tip on if they are considering, they've got this great idea, they want to, they just feel passionate about something. What is your advice to them on getting started?
To work on your mindset first. I know a lot of it is like a lot of people will say to just jump into it and to do it. But if your mindset is not quite there, it is way too easy to back out and to let the excuses stop you from what you're meant to do. But if you take that time to really think about, okay, how are you going to approach this? Are you actually going to commit to this business? Take that time to really work on your self-awareness, know what you're going to be disciplined enough to do, what you're willing to do, and what your why is. It'll be really hard to stop you from doing what you want to do, because there are going to be tough times. You need to recognize that. That needs to be part of your mindset work, that things are not going to go your way. And that's okay. That doesn't make you any less worthy. That just means you are on the right path to continue learning, to continue improving. And in those hard times, you can always fall back on your why, right? You can fall back on that promise that you made to yourself at the beginning, that you're committing to this, that you know why you're doing what you're doing and what you want your future to look like. And that's what's going to keep you going.
Woo! Oh, that was so good. And I mean, speaking to someone who is all about mindset, I'm like, yeah, girl. No, it's so true. I think the first thing when, you want to start a business, you're like, how am I going to do this? Well, I need strategy. I need to do a 0 to 5K month course because, I want to make 5K and like, all these strategies we want to learn. But you're exactly right. If your mind is not in the right place, if you don't know what you want, one, if you don't know who you need to be to have what you want, you need to work on that. I just did a whole hour talk on embodiment and about who you need to be, because it's so true. It's not the fun times in being an entrepreneur are great. What about the times in between, right?
Yeah.
What about the times when you're launch something and no one signs up? What about the times when you're putting out posts and you're writing, send me a DM this or whatever, and no one's responding? It's like we have to control our mindset in those moments, because that's when most people give up. And
Right.
so it's exactly right. Something that we always need to work on. I think it's important to know too, is like the top 1% true entrepreneurs are always working on their mindset. And we always have to go back and revisit things. You may think we work through something happens, pull something back up from the past, and we're like,
Yeah.
we realize we're like, oh, I'm still blocked by that. Oh man, okay. Need to maybe work through this again, like get really curious about why we're feeling the ways that we are. But yeah, there's foundational pieces in being an entrepreneur, and it comes down to what's happening in your brain.
Exactly. It's so important to not get caught up on that. How am I going to do this? Just know that you are going to do it. And that when questions come up, you are committed to figuring out how to do it in that moment and how to move forward.
Yes. And as I say, the how is none of your business. And we have to remember, whatever you believe in, the universe, the divine, God, whatever it is, I always say, universe, she's got my back and she is
Yes.
conspiring for me. So she's always conspiring for my best interests. Now, sometimes it doesn't look that way, but everything's really for learning and growing. So we have to remind ourselves that even in those moments, there's divine timing for everything and the universe has our back. Like if we stick with that, it's not always easy. Again, it's like it's mindset work, but oh my gosh, Krystal, you gave so much incredible insight and information today. Share with the audience, where do you show up? And I'm going to have all of your links in the show notes, but how can people get in touch with you? Is there anything that you've got going on right now or in the coming months that you want to share?
Yes, absolutely. But real quick, I just wanted to say that I say the exact same thing. I always say that the universe always provides. The universe always provides when I'm feeling any kind of moment of doubt. So I love that you're the same way.
Yes.
But yes, just believing in that and leaning into that. Anyways, you can find me on Instagram at Empowered by Women, women spelled WMN. I am pretty active on there. I love chatting and getting to know all of the people in our community. I'm all about nurturing genuine relationships because, like I said, you don't need to be in entrepreneurship alone. We are all about community. So definitely check us out on Instagram. Our product line is Book of Bijou. Bijou is French for jewelry, even though I'm not French. Or you can find us on our websites too, bookofbijou.com or empoweredbywomen.com. Again, empowered women spelled WMN. We also have a podcast that you can look up under the same name. And our women-owned small business directory. If anyone is listening and interested in being a part of that, we're looking for product and service-based businesses in the US, unfortunately. Sorry, Jane.
No worries.
But to definitely check that out. We're also rolling out a new pop-up program to connect our vendor community to storefronts and really just support all of the businesses in our community in increasing their brand visibility. So yeah, happy to chat with anyone that's listening. I would love to have you all on our podcast and learn more about your story. So tap in and just let's connect.
Ooh, so good. Okay, as I mentioned, all of her links will be in the show notes below. So thank you so much, Krystal. This was absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Jane. Love chatting with you always.